And we'll see here in his first match against T1, and he plays aggressive. I wouldn't say Diablo aggressive. I think that is that's a league of its own, but still.
I just don't even know how 79 is possible. I remember that Rascal, he got like the top solo killer in LCK, and that was like, it was like 25 or like 22 solo kills-ish. Obviously that's LCK, which is a bit cleaner. And we're talking about 2 seasons. I'd say
a lot cleaner though.
But 79? That's so much. Anyway, let's talk about the draft here. A lot of stuff we've been seeing so far. You know, Skarner on red side makes a lot more sense. But yeah, Kalista Varus taken away, Sejuani getting a look. What is this final ban going to be? You think about stuff like Ambessa, Cassante, another strong top laner. And what will it be for DK?
Right now, seeing some fun. And okay, well, we actually are looking it in. This is something that we saw a lot of in the last season, and thinking about it, I think the thing about Nidalee that makes sense in the current meta was that most games we've seen is very snowballing, but in practice hasn't really felt like it's panned out, and that's because playing the champion requires both your team and you to be in peak performance. You can't make any mistakes, can't overstep. Oner seemingly looking to want to match the farming potential. We gotta say, Nidalee, I think Zyra, one of the few junglers that does actually outpace her. Big advantage of Nidalee, of course, that she can do a lot of her damage from range. So it doesn't have to be as scared of Oner. Rather, you want to jump in eventually, but don't have to. The Ashe lock-in, though, is a complete no-brainer here. And I think something T1 is going to be very happy with. There is the flex potential, but most likely is just going to go to Guma. Not going to be anything too crazy. You can go for a Braum lock-in. Sejuani is, of course, already banned. And Zyra, I think, theoretically be flexed around, but that's not what we're expecting. Maybe DK just draft the same thing that, like, we just draft only comfort. Right? What's
it's
next?
Pretty interesting. I feel like game 1 of a fearless system, you kind of want to go a bit tier listy and try to make like a very strong composition, and then as you get deeper, you kind of pick the comfort, but they're kind of flipping it on its head.
Yone or Braum? I would get the Braum specifically because, oh no, it's going to be Leona instead, so I think a Braum pickup here would go really hard for T1. Already you are kind of looking to kite back. It is Keria on Braum, which he does have a tendency to try and do stuff, which on Braum you really shouldn't. Beryl on his Leona as well. We are really kind of getting a bunch of highlight picks here. Let's see what the lock-in is going to be. But no, it's going to be the Yone instead. For
you're so right though. The Braum goes so hard, but I think it's Yone, right? Yone is also very strong, and you know, Faker is playing it a bunch in summer. I'm sure Doran can play it. I would have really liked to see the Braum personally. It's good against all 3 champions. On the other side, it's great with Ashe. You've got a great laning phase, but instead we'll see Yone. We'll see how this one goes.
Does also take away what Showmaker most likely would want to play, which is playing an AD mid with the Nidalee. So Faker going to play it instead. Faker's Yone has been pretty up and down, but also last time we saw Faker in the LCK, his performance wasn't great. Ended up obviously really leveling up over the course of Worlds. And right now there is the Braum ban. Should come as a no-brainer. Are they going to ban like Corki here? Is what I'm looking towards. With the Nidalee, you don't really need another source of AP, and if you want to try and avoid double AP mid-jungle, then that would make sense. It's going to be the Jax instead taken away, so some respect being paid to Xiu here immediately. And Jax also really good with Nidalee. Anything that can provide reliable CC is going to be good. It's going to be like Renekton. Trying to think what else they could go. Maybe T1 even picks away the Renekton here, because we already sold the Renekton Zyra, and I do think that's a combo that's always going to feel pretty solid. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Poppy would go quite hard into Leona as well.
Yeah. It's just, you know, a couple of bans that really make sense. It's exactly what we were looking at for Keria. The thing about Keria as well is his champ pool is pretty ridiculous, so he doesn't have to play that kind of thing. He could even play the Zyra. You know, you were talking about that before. The Zyra could be pretty good in terms of winning the lane, but instead Probably going to see that in the jungle. You see the Renata Glass here hovered, and it's going to be swapped to Rel.
Okay, interesting. Keria's Rel's fine, but with Keria, it does always feel like when he is on range supports, just feels like he's really built different. When it comes to engage support, still solid, depending on what form he's in, but doesn't always hit the highs of someone like Delight that is known for that specific style. And Bessa's still open, so I think Shiu are going to be perfectly happy to pick that up, although it could also go to Showmaker. And this would, yeah, that is just a straight up poke comp here. Assuming the Jace is going to go mid and is going to go damage here with Ezreal, Nidalee, and the Jace. And I kind of like that. And in that light, the Rel does feel a lot better, right? Because if you just have the Zyra, you can run into some issues. Obviously, you have the Ashe Arrow, but with the Gragas as well, not only a Doran classic, but also adding even more dive. I'm kind of loving both these comp values. We have on one side a lot of upfront damage, a lot of burst, and a lot of engage for T1. And then D+, especially if you can kind of get that Jace Nidalee combo rolling, the early objectives should be really hard for T1 to contest.
Got a last second swap.
I think this makes more sense.
Yeah.
And this also most likely means that's not tank Jace, which with this draft, I really hope so.
No, he's just going grasp, tank, Jace.
Well, he's going to go grasp, but hopefully he does build damage. Please.
Nah, it's It's
Tom and Bangi.
Yeah.
Do a little bow to each other.
Yeah, it's always an interesting matchup when you get DK against T1. We had our predictions at the beginning of the week. I think it was only Atlas went for DK.
Not just for us, but even including the Korean side.
Yeah. I think it's totally fair. I gave a lot of thought to it, actually. I almost went for DK myself. Because DK is the team that always seems to get upsets over T1. They always have a really fun back and forth series. For me, I think, you know, Shiu's really got to step it up. He can't play nervous, even if he is nervous, right? If he can fulfill his role and do his job and actually, you know, get some solo kills on Doran, then you're cooking. Otherwise, I think T1's solidness might just be enough to get them across the line. And boy, do they have a solid comp with the Gragas in the front for Doran. But guys, let's do it. Let's jump onto the rip for game number 1. Here we go, game number 1, and already DK are getting into it here. They have tons of poke. It is a poke comp, as you mentioned before, with Nidalee and Jace and Ezreal.
Oh, he's going phase rush. You know what that means, Valdez? We are safe
For this game.
Yes. Well, I mean, no, it's fearless. We're safe for the day.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
Woo!
Hey, we're safe.
Barrel,
no more tank Jace.
Barrel
just in my nightmares
is on
instead.
a ward. Oh, God.
Oh, this is so Barrel.
It's so Barrel to just die.
He's just going to die, Steve. This is... he might get away, actually. But Aiming is going to have to flash, and he's being followed here. So even if he doesn't die, Aiming's going to pay for his sins, which also happens with Barrel. So yeah, going a bit too deep, and now you've got Aiming with no flash in the bot lane. Showmaker getting pretty aggressive here in the mid lane against Faker. But yeah, that's a great start for T1. Guess what, guys? You know, level 1 First Blood is the same as any other First Blood. That's already a feat of strength for T1 as well on the board.
Wards are OP is the takeaway from that one. Nicely done there by T1. Read the play from DK. Have all members ready, and Ashe, her level 1, even with the Braum being banned, is just so crazy. The slow, super obnoxious to play into, as we saw Aiming, unfortunately, on the receiving end of that. The kill also went to Guma. And now, Keria and Guma already going to be feeling a lot better. And Lucid was also severely slowed down, because clearly the idea was there to at least take a camp away. Not going to be the case. And Oner is just merrily clearing through. The upside is that looks like Doran did have to TP back to lane. Shiu did not, and Shiu has used the time very well. Doran already taken a big beating, and again, he doesn't have TP. So even if they don't dive, just him being on the back foot should allow a little bit of breathing room here for DK. We'll see. The fact that aiming doesn't have flash available early on Ezreal is probably the best AD carry to have that happen. He still does have his cleanse. That's something at least, as it's very straightforward. Beryl just gets spotted on a ward. They are clearly not expecting 5 people to be here. And they're down a member because Shield already was gone. They thought that they were going in unspotted. Not going to be the case. There are 2 sums used because both Guma and Keria flashed there. But with the pathing that Lucid took, and he was forced to take because of the way that the early laning phase played out, we'll have to see whether he can actually get anything done and whether he can punish. The setup is there with Beryl, but he does actually need to make his way over. He's now done with his first full clear, and Keria already out on the map is aiming.
I mean, he is arcane shifting into Guma, who's got his Q available, but it doesn't seem to matter. The W lands, and aiming just autos him to death. A straight-up solo kill goes to aiming.
Crucially, Guma hadn't backed yet because of when the play happened. Hadn't actually spent his money. And as a result, aiming sees the window. Dive throughs what feels like a full minion wave as well. Lucid just barely doesn't get the steal there. Was trailing. That's actually a big deal. I think that wastes a good amount of time. Now Oner is going to be on his next base, going to be able to do a full clear already. So we'll see if he's able to use that. But man, yeah, I think he just hits a W order there at the beginning, and he just straight up goes in. Unfazed by the casters, also has Conqueror crucially.
Yeah.
Ends up popping there at the end. And Guma not ready for that one, and he didn't have flash, crucially, so couldn't use a flash to dodge like a Mystic Shot or anything. And now the gold's still in favor of T1. They still got defeat, but aiming, getting kills on Ezreal is one of the 2 pillars of good DK wins.
Yeah, it definitely is. I am very curious to see if that remains, you know, those pillars, how strong they are. Can
we'll
they
see.
stand through the years? Can they stand the test of time? Always is fun to watch. It's fun to watch Showmaker on Jace, too. He is really giving it to Faker here in mid. Faker not backing down from the challenge. Obviously, Oner pretty good at trading, but the Jace, they're actually going for a dive in 2025 in my LCK. And Xiu just cleanly flashes away and survives beautifully.
Eats the gank without too much issues. Lucid doesn't hit that spear. He's trying to look for something on Oner, but didn't really want to risk it. One more spear hitting though, and they might actually use that. And they have mid prio. They could play it. Beryl.
Guma no flash. Guma in a lot of trouble here. He's trying to kite it out, but there's 3 members of DK chasing him down, and Shivu will be given the kill. Pretty huge for DK here.
That's a lot of faith. There's a sole AP Nidalee on the team. That champion loves to snowball, but no. They give the last hit to the young man in the top lane.
Faker.
It's
okay,
fine. It's
time to
fine.
go back now.
He has flash.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, ice cold, as you would expect, but he's not having a fun time in mid. Showmaker actually is doing a great job of winning this lane.
This is what I want out of my DK versus T1 Valdez. This is like is this the game where it happens?
Rune.
Can we?
Wait, what's the name again?
Is it real?
Ruinous?
Ruinous? Nah, there's no way.
It's not happening.
There's not. No. Unless. What if we get a 5v5 for Dragon?
Yeah. And Otacon's gonna spawn on the bottom side of the map?
Would be cool.
Yeah.
Let's see as we take another look here. So, Guma, without flash, especially, just you can't walk up like that. Just, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it feels like he can't walk up because she was gonna clip him with the ult anyway. And feels like maybe there's a turn potential there with his 2 teammates, but feels like 2 unforced errors there, back to back for the bot lane of T1, and that is with an early kill being given as well. Meanwhile, towards the top side of the map, Doran has just been doing his job, which is just take a beating, let aiming farm up himself. and remain a threat. The biggest thing for me, though, is specifically the mid lane matchup. The way that Showmaker has been able to have very consistent prio throughout most of this early game has been really allowing DK to do pretty well in terms of map pressure. As Barrel.
Yeah, he's going to get in on top of Faker. He's only level 4. That is going to force the flash here out of Faker. Showmaker just going to hold on to his. So now potential to set something up in the future. And now, you know, you were saying before, you know, Faker could flash away from a shock blast if it was heading his way, but now he can't.
Spear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Make it a bit harder. Imagine that, yeah, DK wants to look towards a dragon from here on out. Still 2 minutes away on the second spawn of Grubs. And first blood did go to T1, but the turret pressure definitely going to feel better here, I think, for DK.
Yeah, it definitely should. It does feel like all their lanes are going quite well. And Lucid has already had an impact in this one, setting up the play on the bottom side with this pressure, landing the spear on a Faker, forcing him to back in mid. You know, Barrel follows up. It really feels like they are playing to make sure that they win as much as possible in this early game. Funnily enough, I feel like Barrel going as deep as he did in the jungle was also part of that. Just didn't realize he was on a ward. Just really wanted to make sure they could get some deep wards, could get the early game going in their favor. Because it is really important on the current patch.
DK also loves to play this way, right? Even going back to 2020 when they won Worlds, which was a completely different lineup. Although Showmaker and Barrel now back have obviously stuck around. But it's important to note that this is also what they were great at in the past, and then they would get a huge lead, and then at one objective or another, things would turn to ruin. I think that is something as we see in this game. That's the real question for me. DK winning an early game, that kind of does feel like par for the course with what we've seen from this team last year, especially domestically. Their Worlds obviously was very lackluster, but domestically I think that's where they excelled. It was actually closing out games that they had some issues with. We'll see if the reintroduction of Barrel is going to help with that or make it worse, because it honestly could be both, Valdez.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to be just the same when you add a player like Barrel into the lineup. So, yeah, it's a good point, and it does, I feel, mean that DK is a bit buffed on current patch. And, you know, future games can look very different where they don't just randomly give up first blood. They already have that first objective. But, yeah, besides, you know, a couple of skirmishes here and there, we've been waiting for a bit more action. No Runus Otacon in this one, that's for sure. Just 3 kills, as it is decided at 14 minutes which one we will get.
Barrel still level 5 here. Definitely wants to hit 6 and might have a fight on our hands for the second spawn of Grubs. We are seeing, though, with Lucid having his Leandry's already done, and Oner not having his poke from the Zara, not quite as threatening as Showmaker. It doesn't matter who he's playing against, just pummeling them as shield.
Oh, here we go. Gonna get that ult on a Faker. Faker, there's nowhere for him to go as he flashes in front of the ult. Oh, the spear just barely going to go wide. Looking for the dive, Shu. You got to be careful. Here comes the Ezreal ult. Faker gets away, but not unscathed. That might just be all the Grubs to the side of DK here as well. All 6 of them, unless Oner can say something about it, but not looking likely at this point in time.
I'm glad to report that Shu does not seem like he's playing scared, as you posited that question earlier. Valdez for T1. Giving up these Grubs, not going to be the end, but it does mean that the pushing power of DK going to be really obnoxious to play into. First turret, I think we have 3 to 4 plates in bot lane, 5 to 4 in mid, and then 5 to 3 in favor of DK towards the top half of the map is Lucid. Ooh, let's see Keria there. That was a little dicey, but there wasn't anyone around to follow up, so Keria not going to go for anything. The one-item spike's done. Not the case as Guma. Might have to use sums here.
Yeah, this is rough. Flash forward from Showmaker ahead of time. Gives him the thumbs up. He is sending a message on this chase tonight. He was dominating the lane. Now he gets a kill on Guma, who's 1 and 3 on this Ashe. Everything's turning up DK so far.
Oner gonna use all this showing towards the top side of the map as an opportunity as in they go.
I mean, you're ulting in onto Leona. She was able to dodge away from that. Faker in a lot of trouble. They'll just wait for his soul to turn back. There's the stun, and Xiu picks up his second kill of the night.
Lucid's here. Keria's dead.
Yeah, Keria's dead. I mean, there's just no way to get away from this one. You see, he is being corralled in between the turret and the wall, and it really just comes down to who's going to get the kill. And it looks like it will be Lucid who does pick it up. Bunch of damage goes in, but that'll be first turret as well, given over to T plus Kia.
And that is 6 grubs going over. First turret blood being taken. And now DK are looking good for those feats. But the solo lanes are getting more and more fed. And Luce picking up the kill is big as well. He's the sole AP source. Itemizing for MR, for T1. Not something that you're necessarily going to want to do anytime soon. They do have decent tanks for it, Doran most notably. As we take a look here.
Okay.
Showmaker. Yeah, I mean, at melee range, that arrow not really going to do too much.
It says no flash. And, you know, they always call for it, like, right before they engage, that they're like, I'm going to go for this.
That's one thing. But this? Faker doesn't have ult. So, going in that aggressively here onto Barrel, who still has Eclipse and Aftershock available, he just doesn't take any damage.
And it's Mbessa, who you're never ulting because she has 7 million dashes. So
yeah, the rival of aiming seals what we already know, which is that that skirmish also going to go the way of DK. And now T1 on a pretty substantial deficit here. Only one unscathed so far are Doran and Oner. And then one objective away for DK. But contesting any objective for T1 is going to be considerably harder from here on out. Because they have great engage, yes, but actually walking into the jungle to try and get any vision is going to be tough. And playing this Pokemon from behind, it's not something that generally you're going to be very happy about.
Yeah. Look at Xiu, not overextending. He's like, hey, you don't see a lot of T1. I'm just going to take a good trade and back away. It's good to see. This guy is, he's hyped up for a reason because he's great at getting solo kills. He's very aggressive, but he picks and chooses his fights very well, I feel. So, going to do the same there to Faker. And now it looks like he is grouping up to go towards the bottom side of the map. We don't have the dragon spawning just yet, and with Rift Heralds coming up soon, looks like he just wants to go down there with his TP and be ready to set up for that with his team and pick up the feats of strength if they do get that objective.
Should be the case here. And barring that one kill that they got on aiming because of Barrow going in aggressively, things have not been looking good for T1 as...
yeah.
That cask did not do the job.
No,
I was waiting for to see if Shio was going to follow, but I don't think DK wants to do it. They want to play towards that final objective. That's another cooldown gone. Aiming does now, or is getting very close rather to his second item. Guma just now hitting that blade. But the turrets are just, again, it's 6 grubs, there's a Jace, and an Ezreal. Like, these turrets are going to get shredded like paper, and feels like a formality before DK also picks up Herald.
I don't even know if that was going to hit him, but Oner is still dead. Like, he's not getting away from this champion. The arrow is going to land, and they do have a lot of the team over here, but the damage is so little, so sparse, and Xiu is just flashing and dashing his way to safety. He is just running circles around T1 right now.
Herald doesn't even die!
They can't do anything to this kid. Meanwhile, Lucid's just soloing the Rift Herald. So that's feats of strength. And Faker, I think he had an inkling about that. But it doesn't really matter, right? Because you're just losing every lane as T1. You try to make the one player like, okay, this is it, this is our chance, and it just goes horrifically wrong.
Yeah, and now that we've seen how the game has played out, a lot of the champions that T1 have, I think, are great. But particularly for Oner and Faker, who are obviously insanely important for how the team functions, Oner on Zyra, even if it is a power pick, just doesn't feel like it does what the team needs Oner to do. You need him on something, well, they banned the Vi because they're playing against...
Like Nidalee?
But, well, yeah, something where you can play a lot more proactive. As good as Zyra is, the biggest proactive plays you're generally going to be able to make is when you outpath someone, are first to an objective, force them to come into you.
Aiming hit all 3 of them.
Yeah.
By the way,
No,
it was pretty dirty.
So we have in the past, and I'm still going to mention this because it might still happen, seen DK throw some games that felt like that shouldn't have been thrown. But from this position, every game that we've seen, with the Herald coming down now, they should be able to get at least 2 charger, possibly even the second turret. I don't think there's a lot that T1 can do. They're going to have to rely on DK making a huge mistake.
Yeah, I mean, you're hoping that, you know, maybe someone like Aiming, Arcane shifts in, or perhaps Xiu makes a mistake because he's a rookie. This is going to be pretty interesting. He's going to just...
He's getting question mark pinged by his own team, or he did it himself. I'm not sure.
I mean, he runs it towards mid. Maybe he gets a charge there.
Well,
no.
Nope.
Okay.
I do know that that was not intentional.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a safe conclusion to draw.
So, anyway, Su's having a great game so far, and he did look nervous in his interview and on stage, but he's not playing nervous. It's one of the big points, as we both mentioned. It's great to see him be able to transition very well, very early on in his first game.
It's just the first game, but I think we saw this particularly with Kingen, who, particularly when he's in form, and I think in the LCK he actually was. Obviously, him and Moham were kind of the downfall at Worlds, not playing up to their own standard. But Kingen, outside of that one Aatrox game in 2022, just wasn't necessarily the guy that was going to go and put on a carry performance. That's how they won Worlds in 2020 with Nuguri. And even if we look at the winners of Worlds of the last 2 years, which were T1, having a top laner that can go absolutely sicko mode on your opponent, definitely a big win. That said, T1,
yeah,
I'm looking at an Otacon DK just running in. You know, they're getting close to a 10k lead. I've seen them throw these Valdez, but outside of that, I think this first game feels like a bit of a bust.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's really rough. Because if you're playing a poke comp and you're behind, you know, the enemy team has levels on you, they start to stack some mountain dragons, you're really just not going to do much. But from ahead,
yes,
into a bunch of squishies that aren't Gragas, and I guess Rel, who has some health, you're really just going to be chunking them. There's really no way for T1 to ever get close to this objective, especially with Barrel's positioning here. There is one nice control ward in this brush, but you know Barrel, he's going to challenge that. He's got his team behind him as well, at least this time.
Yeah, we saw the blue ward used there. Doran trying to get some gold into the good people of T1 as there we go. Going to start at the objective now, but I got to imagine they're looking to turn, and we can see them already. They're not really going for this.
Yeah, you can see for T1, they're like, well, somebody's got to do something. We have to stop this, otherwise we're probably just going to lose anyway. TP is coming in from Doran. He's got to be the bodyguard. He is level 14 and decently tanky.
Oh, they're committing. This could be the moment.
There's the barrel. They got to take out a Leona of all champs, but instead the focus comes down onto Otacon. They take it, and now they've got the respawns coming in. And yeah, Su, he's gonna go in his respawn. Everybody on the side of T1 is just flashing away. And it was actually Barrel that respawned. The rest of them were just sending it. You know, they got the buff and they were head over heels going in.
I'm pretty sure that Xiu TP'd before Otacon was down. He's like, it's fine, they'll get it.
Keria is putting his jacket on.
Yeah, no, this game is done. Come on, they got the buff.
It's like, all right, guys, anyway, go next.
It's just game one, but game one is a blowout, Valdez.
Yeah.
Xiu, does he? I'm like, whenever the buff is up, we still have a minute 50 left. You're like, just do it. It's fine.
Yeah, you're not killing this guy anyway. DK, they're just going to send it right down mid. They're not a team that's going to rotate towards bot. They don't even have a bot wave, so not really an option here. They want to dive these turrets if possible. Keria looking for the engage. He just dives instead. Guma is going to cleanse away from this one as Barrel, he does not have the respawn. And he's going to go in instead and look to set up a kill. And he's going to live until he dies. dies 2 seconds later.
He didn't have the buff. He already died. Barrel, no.
It's okay. That's you. Very nice hold. Very nice angle there onto Oner. And DK, they've had enough of this game. They're putting on their jackets as well, figuratively. They want out of this one. And they want to end T1 here in 23 minutes. They don't have a wave. Oh, they do, actually. There was like one little minion in there, and that might just do it, guys. Faker left alone. They love, yep, they're going to take him down. The damage is way too much, and DK going to stomp T1 in 23 minutes in game number 1.